One nuclear weapon.
Nigeria engages the United States on trade and investment at US-Africa Business Summit. Flood ravages parts of East Africa as Kenya reports dozens of cholera cases. Plus, Biden threatens to suspend arms supply to Israel over Rafah. These are just some of the headlines on the front burner this week. A guest shall be joining me very soon as we commence to dissecting several international issues in the course of the program called Global Update. Do sit back as it promises to be an engaging one. I am Patricia Esamilua. Glad you could join us on the program. Here with me is Ben SHEMANG, a seasoned journalist and an international affairs analyst. Always a pleasure to have you on the program, Mr. Ben.
For having me.
You're welcome.
Great pleasure.
It's our pleasure to have you. Now we'll just go straight to the issue, but let me give us a little bit of a briefing. The 16th U.S. Africa Business Summit that was held from May 6th to 9th, 2024 in Dallas, Texas, turned out to be a landmark event under the theme Partnering for Sustainable Success. Now, the summit brought together over 1,500 U.S. and African public and private sectors executives, including heads of state, international investors, U.S. and African government officials, and multilateral stakeholders. Nigeria was in attendance, engaging the United States government on trade and investment, as well as infrastructural development. Mr. Ben, let's go to the question and business of the day. How beneficial was Nigeria's participation at the 16th U.S. Africa Business Summit?
Very, very beneficial because Nigeria went there with what I'll call a shopping list. Shopping list because it went there to say, look, in terms of gas, look, we have it so massive, waiting to be tapped. The international community, in particular America, look, come to Nigeria and invest. And you see, this thing you call business agriculture, it's not just agriculture. You have to make agriculture sound business so that we don't relegate agriculture to look at it belongs to the old generation and all that stuff. Now, agri should be treated as business. I remember the president of African Development Bank, Adishina, he will always say that, look, if you don't handle agri like a business, people will always think it belongs to old tradition, archaic, the farming with the hoe, and you do some kind of manual harvesting, even suffering some losses, post-harvest losses. So in terms of agriculture, Nigeria is also saying, look, come to us. Africa remains the investment destination, and Nigeria is the focal point. What is it that we don't have? Then when you come to the field of ICT, look at the way Nigerian youths are breaking waves here and there globally. And that's why they're also saying, look, if you come to Nigeria, you have a population, youthful population waiting to be tapped. You get, cheap labor is here because the population is here. The youths are just ready to be used positively. And these are some of the things Nigeria went there to say. Then, in terms of security, look, Nigeria said, look, we mean business. And that is why if you check, they now want to have a standby force of ECOWAS to ensure that they fight this insecurity in West Africa and in particular Nigeria. Because without security, investment will not take place because investors will be doubtful. Is this place ripe enough for me to come invest in? And these are the things Nigeria went out to shopping. And we are expecting that by now, some of the investors must have been doing some checkings to see, oh, it looks like Nigeria is an investment destination.
Let me get to the second part. Maybe we'll talk about our country's participation at the summit. How do you see it attracting much needed foreign direct investment? Though you briefed a little about it, but let's go deep into it.
Yes, in terms of direct foreign investment, you see, even Nigerians who are abroad, the diaspora, so to speak, they will have to kind of start coming back home to investigate and to invest. And apart from that, there are some investors abroad who indeed are looking for where to invest. And this is why Nigeria has a kind of laid the cards on the table for everybody to see. We mean business, and that is it. And that's how they've counted areas where investors can come in. So we expect that people that investors will come in, and when they do come in, Nigerians will be engaged. We now have to look at the power sector also, because most of these industries will have to rely on electricity. So in terms of generating this electricity, we need investors. In terms of transmission, we also need these investors. So when people to distribute this electricity, investors will also have to come in. So these are very large areas. Then when you look at agriculture, like we said, in specific terms, I mean, animal husbandry, we need all of that. Fishery, we need all of that. And even forestry, because buildings are springing up here and there. We need to have some administrations when it comes to forestry administration. Apart from that, what about farming? When you're talking of mechanized farming, and when you begin to harvest, post-harvest losses, how do we manage all of that? How do we take care of agriculture? That is the crux of the matter.
How do we take care of agriculture? Now, Mr. Ben, let's turn our attention to the floods currently ravaging countries like Kenya. You know, the United Nations has voiced concern after dozens of cases of cholera were reported in flood areas as the death toll of rain-related diseases or disasters, shall I say, surpassed 250. Now, the World Health Organization says 44 cases of these diseases have been reported in Tana River County in eastern Kenya, one of the areas hardest hit in the week's destructive rain and flood. The Kenyan government says the death toll since March has climbed to 257. Now, across the country, nearly 55,000 households have been displaced as flood waters and mudslides engulfed homes, roads, and bridges. Mr. Ben, let's look at that. Can we blame the floods in Eastern Africa, South America, even in the UAE on climate matters?
Now, let me put it this way. There was a time I was in Germany. That day was excessively cold for me. When I said, oh, it's too cold, somebody just interjected and said, no, there's always never a bad weather. There's bad dressing. Okay. So what am I trying to say? There have always been warnings when it comes to heavy rains. And it's also necessary that when government agencies do say that there will be heavy rain, and there are times to also give areas and states that this rain will come in, and of course the floods will always be there because of the result of heavy rain. We expect that people should be kind of sensitive to their to themselves and the environment. If you know your house is within a flooding area, within the valleys, it's time for you to make some arrangements to quit. A situation where some people will stay there and say, no, we need government to compensate us first. First of all, look, save yourself before you begin to think of compensation. And so this cholera thing is an attendant result of this flood. Remember too, there are also very dangerous aquatics, some snakes too, and some reptiles. They invade homes, they bite people, and sometimes they are badly affected. So it's a sorry sight that this has happened, but again, people should always take this warning seriously. If they say rain will come and some people even construct houses blocking waterways, and as it is always said, water must always take its rightful course, and that is it, because right from creation it has been there. But if you go there because of man's development, the need to live better life, you want to now construct a mansion, challenge nature, and you stay there, it becomes another thing. Remember in UAE, what was happening that time, and some countries in the Middle East, they have what they call artificial rainfall. Even in Israel, they do artificial rain and do some farming. Now, you could see that they were a kind of challenging nature. Now, the rain simply came in. You can imagine, look at the level of destruction at the airports, houses, markets, just the roads were swept away, bridges swept away, a kind of. So when man begin to challenge nature, look, climate change is here for real. What is it that we want to do? We have to begin to look at how we can also make positive our lives, while also not over challenging nature. When you begin to push the sea away in order to have some houses, a day will come, they say, look, I occupied this place some centuries. I still want to take my cost. And that is it. So people should take warnings seriously. And that is it.
Yeah, honestly, I think there was this instance, even in a state that I'm aware, where people were not considering the fact that they have taken some part of the land. Keep, claiming and claiming. Time will come, they say, water must take its course. And I think we should take lessons from that. Now, let's take a breather here and go for a short break. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. Just hold on for us. Welcome back, and if you've just tuned in, the program is Global Update, where we bring you up to speed with events in the past week. And still here with me is Ben SHEMANG. Now, so I will just head down to Chad, where the country's presidential election is set to end military rule. It will also end a 3-year transition imposed after the sudden death of long-serving leader Idris Deby Itno while fighting rebels. But as his son and successor, Muhammad Deby, is one of the favorites which is expected to win, and there is some skepticism about whether this will bring about change. The results are expected to be released by 21st May, but a second round could be held in June if no candidate gains more than 50% of the vote in the first round. Now, what are your thoughts about the election, having in mind the recent military coups in the region, talking about this, our western region?
Now, you see, Chad's election is very, very instructive when it comes to democracy. Here you are, we used to have Gogoni Wadai, Hassan Hibre, then you had Idris Deby Itno. He came in fighting the rebels, Boko Haram and ISWAP. He was killed on the front line. Now, it says quite a lot. Remember when President Muhammadu Buhari was still in power, he said Boko Haram is getting most of these supplies of arms, light weapons, even heavy ones, because there was no government in charge in Libya. So those who are doing illegal trading of arms were coming in. If you go to Gamborungala in Maduguru, in Borno State, as soon as you move, there's this protocol. Protocol is a boundary. You see a road going to Cameroon, another one to Chad, another one to Niger, then you have Nigeria here. So that is a kind of a point where some of these arms are. And we are also seeing Chad becoming so serious when it comes to the fight against Boko Haram or insurgency. And so the new president that will be, if it's going to be Mohammed Idris Deby Itno, that's the new, the young Idris, I think that it's very instructive for Nigeria. And when you look at it, he accepted to go into transition program. He accepted a kind of civil rule program, and even his own deputy prime minister, let me put this way, even contested against him. So it looks like yes, democracy is there in Chad. It's very, very instructive, so that some African countries will begin to learn from what is happening in Chad, and in particular in Nigeria when it comes to the fight against Boko Haram. Look at what is happening within the Lake Chad basin, a kind of, remember the multinational joint task force is there in N'Djamena, Chad, and my Nigerians have always been commanders of that force. They are giving the Boko Haram insurgents a fight for their money. And I also recall that even in Nigeria here, at the point when they dash into Boko, Sambisa forest, you find these joint operations taking place, and I think that this election in Chad would help us in terms of security and in terms of even trade. Nigeria and Chad can as well go into trade. We would not just be talking of trade with America, trade with France, trade with Britain. We have to also look at inter-African or intra-African international trade. So Nigeria can take the lead there. Whatever we have in Nigeria that they don't have, of course, they have ours, then we have theirs. I think it's very, very good that this election will come. Politically, that place will be stable. And of course, from there, you move even into the Horn of Africa. Look at the Central African Republic, what is happening there. Look at Central Africa, where you don't have a stable government, DR Congo, and some other places like that. So Chad can be an example where democracy is seen to be growing very well. It's going to blossom, and that will be good for the region, will be good for Nigeria, will be good for Chad, and even the contiguous nations of Chad.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. And let's move a little bit to that aspect of Israel-Palestine conflict, where we hear Israel shield Rafah as U.S. President Joe Biden offered his starkest warning yet over the conduct of its war against Hamas, vowing to cut off arms transfers if an offensive into the South Gaza city goes ahead. Israel has already defied international objections by sending its tanks and conducting targeted raids, and it has called Joe Biden's threat very disappointing. Now, what are your thoughts on this, particularly with Israel defying international objections of targeting Rafah?
No, I think that when there is an international obligation via the United Nations and even with friendly nations between Israel and America, I think the tension has to be doused. Yeah. And look at Egypt, all the while has always, I mean, since the 70s, have always never wanted to have any crisis with Israel. The same thing with Jordan. So I think Israel should see this kind of friendship as a good omen to ensure that they find a way out of this crisis in Gaza and and beyond. So when America is now showing some disappointment, Israel is not living up to its own obligation, and they are threatening to a kind of not to supply them with arms anymore. I think there are times that sanctions will have to come on board. Humanity is universal. Human rights are universal, so that we are not talking of balance of terror in this matter when we're talking of fighting this war. So Israel appears to have a kind of an upper hand, but it does not mean that when you have this too much power, you overshow it. But again, when you look at it, Israel will say, we are simply looking for our citizen. It also means that in terms of negotiation, no side should be so stiff. You go there, you want to have 50%, so we want to have 100% of all your demands. The other side will go and say, I need everything I'm tabling before you on this table 100%. No, there has to be shifts in demands so that the international community will accept everything and have some sympathies on both sides. Now Israel is saying they are still looking for their citizens. Hamas is also holding some of these citizens in order to score their own political point. But the warning here in Nigeria, before the warning on the side of Nigeria, you see that the Prime Minister of Israel is also not having it easy back home. All survivors or the loved ones either being killed or those being held, you can see that almost on a daily basis they are simply protesting in the streets saying, go save our children. And so then back home in Nigeria, sometimes we tend to align based on religion. If you go to Gaza, are there no Muslims? If you go to Palestine, are there no Muslims? If you go to Gaza, are there no Christians? If you go to Palestinian areas, are there no Christians? Because even Church of Nativity is in the Palestinian area where Christ was born. So that's why when Christians go on holy pilgrimage, they go to the Palestinian areas. So I think that we should not align based on religion. Let us look at humanity. Who has a right to live? But in terms of conflict, I think nobody should just stick to its guns. There has to be a time where negotiations, the roundtable business, will always come out better.
All right, we shall continue to monitor the situation in the Middle East and bring you up to speed as it unfolds. On this note, I would like to profoundly thank you, Ben Sherman, for your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you on this program called Global Update. And now we'll take a look on other top stories that made headlines in the past week. And this will be the next on the package. Stay with us.
Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan, arrived in Nigeria amid pomp and dancing on Friday to champion mental health for young people affected by conflicts and to promote the Invictus Games, which the prince founded to aid the rehabilitation of wounded and sick service members and veterans. The couple, in Nigeria for the first time on invitation of the military, began their 3-day visit by going to the Lightway Academy School, which received support from their Archwell Foundation to train young girls affected by conflicts in Nigeria. Recall that Harry served in Afghanistan as an Apache helicopter co-pilot gunner, after which he founded the Invictus Games in 2014 to offer wounded veterans and service members the challenge of competing in sports events similar to the Paralympics. Nigeria was among the nations that participated in last year's edition of the Games.
Media sources say a senior U.S. official revealed that the United States paused a shipment of bombs to Israel last week over concerns that Israel was approaching a decision on launching a full-scale assault on the southern Gaza city of Rafah against the wishes of the United States. The shipment was supposed to consist of 900-kilogram bombs and 225-kilogram bombs, according to the official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. More than 1 million civilians are sheltering in Rafah after evacuating other parts of Gaza amid Israel's war on Hamas, which after the militant group's deadly attack on Israel on October 7th. The pausing of the aid shipment indicates the growing tensions between Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government and the administration of President Joe Biden, which has called on Israel to do far more to protect the lives of innocent civilians in Gaza.
And that's it on this episode of the program Global Update. Make it a date with us next time on the same station, NTA News 24. I am Patricia Asamiluba. Many thanks for being part of this.
Right.